Welcome to the Develop Great Managers podcast, where you can learn directly from the experts. I'm Dale Ferrario, your host. For more information and valuable insights, go to developgreatmanagers.com. Now, on to the show. Hi, and welcome back. This week I have Laura Ortman back on the podcast to talk about her career journey. As a quick refresher, Laura is the President and Chief Revenue Officer for Cologix. Laura has had quite a career journey. She's worked in all aspects of a technology company, preparing her for the role that she has today. I got to know Laura while at VMware. She is truly an amazing manager and leader. I'm really happy to have her on the podcast. As with the last podcast, a bit of warning. This was recorded during the COVID-19 shelter-in-place order. We had some networking issues, so I'm on Zoom and Laura is on her cell phone. Sorry for the inconvenience. The content is still great. I hope you enjoy. Hey, Laura, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. This time we're going to talk about your career journey, how you got to where you are today. I know that we have, especially the millennials, who think you have to have that idea up front of where you're going, and every step's going to lead you to that ultimate destination. That isn't how it works for most people, but I'd love for you to talk about your path and some of the decisions you made along the way. So jump into it wherever you want and tell us how you got to where you are.
Sure, Dale. Thank you. So a little bit about me. So first of all, I was born in Europe. I grew up in Houston, Texas, and then I went on to Alabama for college. And I was convinced that I was going to be a physical therapist and I was going to go to PT school. I had it all planned out. In my
and that's not where you are today, is it?
Exactly. So my junior year of college, I took an economics class. I was really working towards a biology degree to go to PT school. And I just fell in love with economics and business. And then I took a marketing class, and I switched to getting a business degree. So I ended up getting my degree in business and with an emphasis in marketing. And I started my career in sales, selling services. And just to tell you a little story about my first day on the job, because I didn't get the training that, a lot of the new employees get now, or the onboarding. So essentially my first day, I was handed a phone book, and I know I'm aging myself. And essentially my manager said, start cold calling, and you're on commission only. And I had to build up my clientele. I had to learn the services I was selling. I didn't get any training. I wasn't part of any onboarding class, but honestly, it's helped me be who I am today. And, I'm never afraid to call a prospect, a customer, or anyone I haven't met, because I had to do thousands of calls before I got my first prospect, which ended up being my next company that I worked for. So wow. The first customer that I gained ended up the company that I went to work for. And then I moved into more of an account management, project management role for an IT company.
Hey, before you leave that
Yes.
last job,
yeah.
So that was in sales. And so you were doing telesales, you were doing lead generation.
Yes.
And then you decided not to continue up the sales path. What was the thinking there? What was the thinking in not staying in that track?
Yeah, so when I landed my first client, which was Computer Data Systems, and 8 months later, they said, we would love for you to work for us, but we've got a unique role around account management and project management and also recruiting. For me, it was really about learning all aspects of the business. So you'll see in my career that I get very excited when I learn. So we talked about Strength Finder earlier. Achiever was my number one, and Learner is my number two. So I love to learn new things. And so for me, I felt like, okay, I've done sales, I was like in the grind of sales. I would love to learn how to do more of that account management, which is more farming accounts, and then project management, and then recruiting and talent, where I can try to recruit people to work for this company that, gave me this opportunity. That was a lot. That sounded a lot of fun too.
So it wasn't, you weren't as excited. Sometimes sales are really excited at closing that deal. And
yes,
it was the hunt, it was the kill, whatever you want to call, whatever words you want to use. That wasn't it for you. It was more the learning, and then just getting a larger understanding of how that part of the business was working. Sounds like.
Yeah, I would say it is, but you'll find throughout my career that I I went in and out of sales, and now I think everybody's in sales, right? It doesn't
Yep.
matter what your role in, you're selling, the company value. So I think I'm always leveraging those skill sets.
Okay. So then so
Yep.
now you moved into your next company. Tell us more.
Yeah. So did recruiting, talent management. And then I had the opportunity, it was working for a government contractor, to move into a software development, software test manager role. And this is where I had shared the story prior around that they needed somebody to help test cases to win a contract that we were a part of. And so, I did that for a few years, and then they asked me to do a finance role for a year, which was really interesting. And again, my learner, came in, and I thought, okay, well, if I want to be president of a company or CEO of a company, I better learn the financials side of the business. So I thought, okay, I'll do that for role and try it out. And it was really working with spreadsheets for about a year, and I'm a people person. So I did it enough to learn what I needed, but I quickly realized that I did not want to stay in finance. So then they moved me to lead desktop publishing, internal help desk. And at the time I was getting my MBA with an emphasis in information systems. I always was very excited to work for technology companies and IT, aspects of the business. So I knew that was where I wanted to stay. And so I figured, okay, again, setting goals for myself. I got my MBA and they supported me through that. So did that for a while, and then I had the opportunity. Yeah.
Do you think they were grooming you to be, an executive? Because it sounds like moving you around into all of those different jobs. First of all, most companies aren't comfortable doing that, which
Right.
I think is a mistake, right? But I think so.
Yeah.
They were fairly unique in allowing you to just take on a job for which, if you came in from the outside, they never would have hired you, right? Because your resume, you weren't qualified for that job. But they gave you the opportunity. So do you feel like they were trying to groom you, or were you looking for the next opportunity?
I think it was a little bit of both. So I was working for a manager that had the utmost confidence in me and really wanted to see me grow. And she knew I had career goals set. So she helped me through that. And then I would say my clients at the time, I had built such a great relationship with them. They also knew what my career goals were. So I would say, and then when opportunities came about, some of those opportunities they wanted me in because they knew I would just get the job done. And other opportunities, I raised my hand and said, hey, I'll help and I'll do this. And they, the other aspect of this, Dale, that's important is you always want to make sure you have a succession plan so that you are able to move around, so that you've got a strong team behind you, that you then give somebody else the opportunity to take on the role that you were doing. So
Yeah,
I always was really
I think that helps for
that.
you. That also helps for the leadership, because they're looking, saying, if I have to pluck you out of that job, there is a person ready for that. So they're
Exactly.
less reluctant to pull you out of there and put you into another role. That's great advice as well.
Yep, exactly. So that time span was about 7.5 years. I'd worked for this government contractor doing a lot of different jobs. And I was just really ready for a change at this point. So I got a call from a company that did aviation, rail, and marine data. And they were headquartered here in Denver. And they asked me to come in and lead their global technical support team. And, I'd run technical support teams, but not globally. So again, being from Europe, I thought, oh, this is a great opportunity to take on a global role. And so I ended up spending a lot of time in Europe. I had teams across Germany, UK, Norway, Sweden, and Italy. And then they also gave me the opportunity where I helped them with mergers and acquisitions. So I kind of had a dual role. And so I really gained that experience, again, which I hadn't had before, across the 2.5 years that I spent with that company.
And so that was the biggest team that you had? Is that, or just the most distributed, or both?
Both.
Yeah,
So it was the largest team and the most distributed. And I started with about 22 people. And by the time I left, it was close to about 200. So, wow. You have to earn their trust, and you have to show that you can be successful and drive the right change to drive success for the company. So I think as they saw that, they just gave me more responsibility.
Yeah. So as you made these changes, are there a few things that you feel like you were able to carry across regardless of which job you were in? Some of those skills, some were different. If you had development or testing and you'd never had that before, or now you have call centers, but some of your skills carried nicely across. Are there a few of those that you think are most important that helped you move so effectively from job to job?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that come to mind. So first is just, really gaining the trust from your employees and being, we talked about servant leadership, and we talked about, really listening to your employees and building that relationship. So that's always been a big part for me, is getting to know the team and the people that work for you.
Yeah.
And number two is, I always, if I hadn't done the role, I wanted to see how they were doing the role. So I would listen in on customer calls, sit next to them, and I would tell them, I'm doing this because I want to learn. I'm not trying to watch you do your job, but I love to learn and see how you're doing things. And it gives them, it gives them a sense of pride of what they do. And so I've always applied that in every role that I've been in across the company. So I talk about listen, learn, and lead. So, you listen first, and then you learn, and then you lead the team. And so that takes time.
Oh, I love that. I think actually those three words, listen, learn, and lead, we both, while we were at VMware, worked for Scott Bedos.
Yep.
And I remember when I moved over, and I was not qualified to be in global services at all. But the first thing he said is, you're not allowed to come and make any recommendations to me until you spend time and sit with the support teams, listen to calls, meet with the managers, do all the things you just said. I think that's such great advice. So listen, learn, and lead. That's great.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. By the way, Scott was one of the best leaders I've had the opportunity to work with. So fantastic leader. Yeah. So from there, after I spent, and it was Jeppesen was the company I was with, I always wanted to really work for a leading edge software company. And so VMware gave me a call, and they were just opening up their Broomfield support center. And it also gave me the opportunity to not travel as much. So at the time I was at Jeppesen, I was traveling about 75% of the time, and I had 2 young daughters at home. And so I thought, okay, I could work for this amazing company, really help them build out their global services team in one location, which again, I knew that if I did what I need to do, there would be further opportunities, throughout my career at VMware, and I wouldn't have to travel as much. My commute was longer, but I wouldn't have to travel. So went to VMware, and I ended up spending 9 years at VMware. Mm-hmm. I would say the first 7 years were really around leading technical support teams and global services. And my last 2 years was really around leading revenue and sales teams for our cloud services business, where my role went from customer experience to sales leader to then essentially general manager of the business unit that I had an opportunity to do before I left VMware.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that was a great experience that led you into the job that you have now as well, right?
Yes, exactly. And it allowed me to leverage my skills from the first role I ever did out of college to really driving teams and driving revenue that really encompasses everything that we've talked about, from customer experience to account management to sales to ensuring that you're building relationships with the customers and the team. So it was a really great opportunity.
And so that last decision you made to move out of VMware and into your current company, how did you make that decision?
So that was probably the toughest decision that I've had to make in my career. I love the team at VMware. Obviously you build a lot of relationships over the 9 years that you're there. But again, I was ready for another change. Mm-hmm. And essentially I wanted to go to a startup, which I'd been talking to a few startup companies in Denver, and then an interconnection and data center co-location company, Equinix, gave me a call. And the opportunity was really almost too good to pass up. It was really driving customer success and helping them transform customer experience globally, as their chief customer officer. So, great culture, great company. I learned a tremendous amount around just the data center, co-location business, interconnection. And I had a pretty large global team. I was traveling about 90%. And I had the opportunity, to meet people from all over the world, across Asia, Europe, and North and South America. And I really wasn't looking to leave. And then an executive that I worked with at VMware called me about 1.5 years ago and said, I've got a great opportunity for you to help me grow and drive revenue for a company that now I'm the CEO for. And the best part is it's headquartered in Denver, Colorado. So, the last 25 years I've been working for Bay Area companies and had global roles. So not only did I travel to meet with customers and partners and employees outside, of the country, but all the board meetings, all the ET meetings were all in California. So I thought, oh, wow, I finally get to work for a company, in Colorado. And it was a great role and really great opportunity, but it was a very personal decision for me because I have 2 daughters in high school. And so I figured, the last 3 years of high school, I really want to be home more. And this allows me to do that. So we've got data centers in Canada and the US. And we've got, our board meetings are in Denver and our ET meetings are in Denver. So it just has really allowed me to, we talked about work-life balance, to be able to focus more on my family, but also make an impact. And I'm learning a tremendous amount in running a business, as the president and chief revenue officer. And so, I'm able to run strategic sales, revenue planning, and really focusing on deepening our customer relationships and all the go-to-market strategies included in that. So, I'm very passionate and really, around driving inclusion, diversity in the workplace as well. And so, that's also important to me. And we're trying to drive that around, in Cologix as well.
Well, it sounds like you ended up exactly where you wanted. Well, maybe you will have another step when you're going to run your own company, but
there you go.
But you've gotten to the point where you're doing it all, right? You have all those things that you learned along the way have prepared you for what you're doing now. That's an awesome story.
Thank you. Well, I feel very fortunate. And, I always say I'm going to write a book one day about building relationships, because I do feel that building relationships, whether it's with your peers or, executives or your customers or partners, it's a small world out there and opportunities can come your way. And sometimes it's the right time and sometimes it's not, but building that network is so critical for anyone, regardless of where they are as part of their journey in their career.
Well, and it's a good thing that you had such a good relationship with the person who now runs your company, right?
There you go. Exactly.
Because you never know what's going to happen, right?
You never know. You never know.
All right. Well, thank you, Laura. This has been great. I think that journey is really a good story. I think you had an idea where you wanted to go, but exactly the path you took, who could have predicted, right? And I think you ended up early on in a company with people that supported you and allowed you to move in very different ways. Most companies really feel like you can't leave your area, right? But having somebody who is willing to let you try different things, and you proved yourself, obviously, and so they continue to let you develop. What a great story.
Thanks, Dale.
So thank you. I appreciate the time and continued success.
Thank you, Dale, so much. And thank you again for having me, and looking forward to speaking with you soon.
All right.
Please stay in touch, okay?
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard, there are more podcasts available on developgreatmanagers.com, on iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have time, please post a comment, or better yet, please write a review. Talk to you in the next podcast.